Hello everyone, it's your good buddy Spider, your friendly neighborhood friend. Friendly neighborhood friend. That's a little cumbersome, but that's okay. It's Spider. It's me. I'm the Spider. I'm the guy. I'm here. I've mucked up this intro. Are you surprised? Probably not. Welcome to another episode of Uncanny Media, the show, where I just basically spout off about whatever is interesting at any given moment. And you tune in to listen. Most of the time. If that's any indication of the way that the show is going to go from here on out, then you already know I'm not prepared. There's the cough, by the way. There's the cough. I am still sick with cold symptoms. Runny nose, a cough, sinus drainage. The same thing I've had since August. It's now January of the following year. And I'm on medicine now. I'm taking Advil, cold and flu. I thought about getting cold and sinus, but I thought cold and flu might be a better choice. I've gone through one pack already. I'm on a second. I'm hoping at some point to not have these symptoms anymore. I don't know what to tell you. But here we are. We're back for another episode. And there's a lot of things going on. I don't know what all I'm going to talk about. I'm going to kind of bounce around a little bit. It's going to be a wide-ranging sort of series of topics because over the last few days, I kept thinking, okay, I need to pick something to be a topic, and I had titles in my head, but that didn't really inform what the topic was going to be. It was all kind of, surface stuff. So we're gonna free range it, as we tend to do. I've described this podcast as a stream of consciousness style podcast, and that's because basically anything that comes to mind, I usually talk about. And I think that's fair. I think that's appropriate. It is, of course, January here in Ohio. It is cold. It is extremely cold. Let's pull up what the latest temperature reading is on my weather app on my phone. It's 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is below freezing. I've only gone outside a couple of times to put out the recycling, and I have to go out again after this episode is over to put the trash by the curb. Now, you may wonder why I'm doing that now. As you're hearing this, it's going to be Wednesday. I'm recording it on Tuesday. And my trash day is usually Monday. Not that any of this information is anything that's vitally important to you, but Monday was Martin Luther King Day. And so government functions were non-existent. We didn't have trash pickup. We didn't have, whatever local government offices. None of them was open. Everybody had the day off. So normally my trash day would be Monday, but it got bumped back a day, so it's on Tuesday. So after this episode, I'll be putting it up, despite the fact that when you hear this, it will be Wednesday. Did I not mention in the past that time is kind of fluid here as far as how we do things? There was a bit of controversy today too. I guess it was yesterday. I don't know. I saw the news story today, and honestly, it's not really important. I guess one of the news outlets picked up that, oh, Trump didn't do anything for Martin Luther King Day. He didn't make any announcements. He didn't say anything. He didn't acknowledge it. Well, okay, it's not a big deal. I mean, yeah, it's important because he was a huge proponent for civil rights, and I acknowledge all of that. I'm not, going to downplay it myself or anything like that, but at the same time, it's not known as a holiday where people do things, I don't think. Like, I mean, it's in January, so a lot of the country is cold with snow and various things. It's not like you're going to go out and do barbecues and do whatever, like for, Veterans Day or whatever, right? And I don't know what people expected. If he was going to make a big announcement about, oh yes, we acknowledge the contribution of Dr. King, and I don't think that's necessary. And I don't want people to think that I'm saying that just because of who it is. I'm not saying that anything acknowledging Dr. King is not necessary. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't think we need to make big pronouncements on days about specific people. Like Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever you want to call it. Martin Luther King Day or President's Day. I don't think you need to make a big, like, on this day we acknowledge the... No, I don't think we need to do that. I think that's just an effort to stir up controversy and to say, oh, well, Trump didn't say anything about Martin Luther King, so obviously he's a racist. And, I'm not going to go into the argument one way or another of whether he is personally a racist or not. That's not really the point that I'm making. And again, I have to say it often because people don't always listen. I did not vote for Trump. I'm not a MAGA guy. So I'm not defending him on this because I don't think there's a need to, because it's not a thing. Right? I've been critical about different things that needed to be critical about, but this is kind of a nothing thing. There's no reason, like, oh, Trump did not acknowledge Martin Luther King Day. Okay. Did you? Well, good. Good for you. Did your neighbor? Good for them. Did the other neighbor? He didn't? Oh, well, whatever. Not a big deal. Right? You don't do things for it, right? I mean, if you want to, in your head, be like, you know what? I appreciate the effort. I appreciate everything that he did while he was alive for the cause of civil rights. Well, that's great. We can all acknowledge that. But nobody needs to make a big pronouncement about it, right? You don't got to draw attention outside of your own personal belief about it, do you? I don't know. I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, you're obviously trying to downplay his contributions and you're a racist in disguise. And I'm not. I'm 100% not. But I don't know. I just think it's a non-news story. I don't think it's a controversy. But people will find controversy in everything these days. If there's a controversy to be discovered, they will find it. And that's all it is. I think it's just an attempt. If you believe that Trump is a bad guy, I don't think you need anything extra to believe that. I don't think you need to make a bigger pile of issues to believe he's a bad guy. And if you think he's a great guy, I don't think anything's going to change your opinion. So it's a pointless controversy. But that's, not a big deal. Quick update. Not really a big update. Apparently, Maduro, the former president of, or at least from some people, he's still the legitimate president, whatever you want to call it. He is still in United States custody. He's appeared before the court to plead not guilty. I don't know what else is going on with that. There hasn't been a lot of news reporting on that, despite the fact that it was such a big thing, because the court system moves very slowly, and we're not likely to hear the details for a while, because each step of the process is going to take time. So it's an update, but not much of an update, right? The Venezuela situation is still kind of developing. It's hit kind of there was a lot of things that happened all at once when it first went down, and now it's sort of a holding pattern. Another big story is Iran. Iran has protests, and they've had protests before, because Iran, of course, is a hardline, severely orthodox Muslim government since the changeover in the 70s. And the son of the former king of Iran, who was ousted and chased out during the Muslim takeover in the 70s and 80s, the son has been... I follow him on Facebook. He posts a lot about revolution and about the people taking their country back and different things, and he's living in exile in some other country. I don't know where he's at right now. I don't remember, with his family. But there's a lot of controversy about that, because Iran has turned off internet access as much as they can. They've tried to shut down cell service. They have, according to, and I always kind of wonder about this, because news sources will always say, independent watchdog tallies the whatever, and I'm like, who's the watchdog, and how exactly do they get their information? Do they get their information from word of mouth on the ground, which is potentially biased? Do they get their information by being there undercover and managing to be in the right place at the right time? I don't know. I always I'm a little distrustful of independent watchdogs in these various situations, but I'm not going to say that they're lying, because I don't know. It's just difficult to verify that. They say they've verified the information, and they'll say how, but it doesn't. It's difficult to say 100% for sure. But they say that nearly 4,000 people have been killed in Iran related to the protests, and that's including the protesters and various security personnel who've been trying to put down the protests. No, I don't doubt that Iran, their government, has been murdering people. I don't doubt that, because that's what you get in highly orthodox, super religious countries like that. I'm not going to say specifically Muslim countries, because it happened here in the United States, in Salem and various places. You had Puritan communities, which were Christian communities, and they did a lot of murdering of innocent women. So but you do get that kind of thing a lot in any sort of strict Orthodox religious community, especially if it's a federal government kind of thing. So I don't doubt that there are people being killed for that. I'm just unsure of what the actual numbers are. They could be higher. They could be more. than what the Watchdog is reporting, which I wouldn't doubt, honestly. I just don't think the exact count is something we're going to know one way or the other. It could be lower, it could be higher. And I know somebody in Iran. I know somebody named Mohsen. His name is Mohsen. That's an Iranian name, an Arabic name. And he's been a follower of this Uncanny Earth for quite a while. And I'm hoping... I've seen him react on various things on Facebook recently, so I'm sure he's okay, but I hope he's not getting too involved with things. I wouldn't blame him if he was out doing the protesting and whatnot, because it is their country, and I'm not going to tell them how to deal with their own issues. I just hope he's doing okay, and his family's doing okay. I'd hate to lose somebody from that part of the world due to whatever's going on. To put it however. So there's things going on in Iran. What else is going on in the world? I've mentioned that I'm still sick, and I don't want to make the episode all about me specifically, but I've been trying to go through... I have to assume that there's something that's keeping my immune system down. And I don't know what it is. Some people will say, well, obviously you drink too much. It's probably the alcohol. And alcohol does have... I believe, if I remember correctly, alcohol does tend to lower your immune system. But I have been drinking for a long time, as far as, the years go. And this is the first year where I've just been constantly... from 25 into 26. It's the first span of time where I've just been constantly just a cold. A specific set of symptoms. And I went back and I'm trying to think of the various things that I changed. I've changed my diet. So I eat mostly a protein diet. I've cut out a lot of the carbs. I've cut out a lot of the various sugars and various things. It's mostly a protein diet. But I eat a lot of cabbage. Which, that's a weird thing all of a sudden. Like, I don't know, you eat a lot of cabbage. I eat a lot of cabbage because it's good for your digestive system. And I've historically had problems with my digestive system. So I eat a lot of onion. Onion is good for you. It has a lot of health benefits. And because I put that in a lot of my food. A lot of my food contains onion and cabbage daily, proteins. So, as far as my diet goes, I don't think it's my diet that's the issue. I've looked at the supplements that I've been taking. And remember, a few episodes back, I talked about how I was trying to get I'm not trying to, I did. I've got an estrogen reducer. And I was on a testosterone booster for a little while. Not that I thought I needed it, but because everything I read said if you're going to do the estrogen reducer, you want to do the testosterone booster and blah, blah, blah. I ran out of the testosterone booster a while back. And I didn't get more because my local grocery store didn't have the same kind that I was getting, and I didn't want to order more because it's expensive. But I'm still on the estrogen reducer. I've got that. I've got the vitamin E supplement. I've got the omega-3 fish oil supplement. And I take those daily. And I have to wonder if one of those is affecting my immune system. I don't think they're supposed to. They're just vitamins. It's not like it's synthetic drugs or anything like that. It's not medication. Because you get, when you watch those ads on TV about the side effects of various medications, they'll say it may lower your immune system, blah, blah, blah. And if somebody has a compromised immune system, they should contact their doctor before taking that kind of thing. I'm not taking anything like that. I'm only taking natural things like vitamin E. The estrogen reducer that I'm on it's from, like, it's got broccoli extract and brown rice extract and different things like that. It's not chemicals. So I'm trying to pinpoint what has changed that might, if any of these things has any effect on my immune system, and none of it should. None of these things should be messing with my immune system, but there is something clearly that's reducing it or impeding it, because I've got these cold symptoms constantly. And I don't have anything else. I don't have, like, if I had other things going on, like if I was throwing up constantly, or if I had blackouts or severe headaches or something, I would wonder, okay, is there a tumor going on? Is there some kind of cancerous growths going on? But nothing points that direction. It's just cold symptoms, and it doesn't make any sense why it's lasting so long. And this is, I know, you can't always trust this. I went to WebMD. Most of the time, it gives you, like, I've seen all kinds of memes about people who went to WebMD, and they were like, oh, I went in and put in my systems, and it said I had 3 days to live. Oh my gosh. And so, but I went there anyway, and I was like, cold symptoms, this. And no matter what I put in, it said, oh yeah, cold symptoms are supposed to last for 2 weeks. If not, check it with your doctor. And that was it. Like, there was nothing further, like, oh, it could be this, or it could be this, you might consider this, look into various. It wasn't helpful in any way. It was just like, oh, well, it's supposed to last a couple of weeks, that's about it. Talk to your doctor. And I don't have a doctor because I can't afford medical insurance, so I'm just kind of stuck in this little area where it's like, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. It's incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know what else to say. Let's talk for a minute. I don't want to get too deep into this because I think there's a lot of hearsay about it. There's a lot of things that I don't think we know the facts of yet. And I don't want to make any claims towards anything. But Minnesota, and I'm not going to talk specifically about Minnesota. This is going to lead to something else, okay? In Minnesota, if you've been following the news, they are following a trail of suspected fraud in the Medicaid system among daycare centers and various things. And a lot of places in Minnesota, they're linking those to Somali immigrants who've set up these daycares, okay? It's a big thing. It's a whole thing. Because of that, apparently here in Ohio, specifically in the city of Columbus, Ohio, there is a similar setup where we have a lot of, I guess we have a lot of Somali immigrants in Columbus, Ohio, which I did not know. Not that it makes a big difference. I don't care. I don't specifically make a big deal about people of other nationalities and ethnicities and whatever in the state. Like, I have neighbors of different ethnicities, and they don't bother me, and they work and they do what they do, and I don't care what their green card status is. I don't. They're not trespassing, they're not stealing, they're not messing with my stuff, they're not going out and bringing unsavory elements to the neighborhood. So I don't care. If they're illegal, well, whatever. That's on them, and they'll get busted by it eventually. If they're not, then it's not my problem. I'm not going to go out of my way to make any phone calls or to report anybody or anything like that, because that's not my business. They're not hurting me. They're not hurting anything in the neighborhood. What difference does it make? If it turns out that they're illegal and they're not doing what they should, well, then, that's, I guess, on them, and that's too bad, because they're great neighbors. They haven't caused me any issues. But otherwise, I don't worry about the ethnicity of the people around me, because it's not something that's important. To me, they're just people. They're people doing things. But apparently, because in Columbus now we have a sizable Somali population, that now Ohio is under the microscope for suspected fraud in daycare centers and things. And there's been a lot of people like, maybe the governor should check into that. And of course, our governor, who separately, regardless of this issue, but just separately, is a swine. Our governor's a lying toad. But he said, we have all these things in place to protect us from fraud. And, I don't have any reason to disbelieve that, despite the fact that he's a lying toad in other areas. But so now, but here in Ohio, we've got a big outcry of people like, check out the daycares, do this, get out the Somalis and whatever. And I'm kind of like, I'm over it. And the opposite side of the people who are like, leave them alone, there's no reason you need to bother them. There's been protests, and I don't get this. On some level I kind of do, but on the other I'm kind of like, what is the point? There's been protests in Minnesota, which is ground zero for where this happened, right? And that makes sense. If you're going to be upset about how your neighbors are being treated, then you're going to protest in the place where they've been treated badly, right? If things are going on in Minnesota, that's where you're going to protest at, in Minnesota. But apparently there's been protests all across the country about Minnesota. And what difference does that make? There were protests here apparently in my town somewhere in this part of Ohio, and I didn't hear about it. Nobody heard about it. It was just apparently there was a protest about what was going on in Minnesota. Why don't you go to Minnesota and protest there? Why protest here in Ohio? What are we going to do about it? Nothing. We got nothing to do with it. Protesting here is pointless. What do you want our leaders here? Oh, well, we'll go to Minnesota, we'll straighten things out. No, that's not going to happen, so protesting here is stupid. It makes no sense. But because there was a protest here for what was against what was going on in Minnesota, then because Ohio is a conservative state, you of course had an element that was like, well, we're going to protest against the protest. And you had an anti-protest. And then they got fighting with each other. There was a news story where an anti-protester somebody who was like, "Yeah, get those immigrants out of here." He pepper sprayed, because he's a stupid idiot. He pepper sprayed the pro Minnesota protesters. Those guys on the other side were like, "Oh, we've been pepper sprayed," so they threw him down and kicked him in the head. And I mean, I don't mean to say that that's funny, but it's just, what do you expect was going to happen? They threw him down and kicked him in the head, and then everybody got arrested for it. Because why not? Hold on. Hey, what are you doing? No. No, you can't offer this stuff. No. Hey. Thank you, Troy. Thank you. Kittens. Knocking stuff off the shelf. So yeah, the pro get the immigrants out of here guy pepper sprayed the anti get the immigrants out of here people, and they threw him on the ground and kicked him in the head, and then everybody got arrested. Like, it's a crazy world right now. I don't get it. Like, people are so fired up about everything. I don't get it, to be perfectly honest. It's like, we had protesters north of here in Akron, Ohio, over the Keystone pipeline issue, if you remember that from a few years back. We were trying to get the Keystone pipeline opened up, and there were people like, "Oh, you can't do that because it's on Native American land and this and that." But why would we protest here? Like, what are the people in Akron, Ohio, the leadership there, what are they going to do about it? Other than make a statement about it. Like, are they, "Oh, well, we've acknowledged that people are upset about it. We condemn the action." Big deal. You've done nothing but say that you've condemned the action. It's not like you're going to go there. Like, our leadership isn't going to travel to wherever the Keystone Pipeline was and be like, "We're going to put a stop to this because our people are upset about it." In our state of Ohio, which is nowhere near where the pipeline is. Like, why would you protest it here? If you really feel strongly enough about the issue that you want to protest, and I'm not going to tell you not to, I'm not going to say don't protest at all, because it's obviously your right to be upset, but go to where it makes sense. Don't protest in Ohio for things that happen in North Dakota or Minnesota or California. Go to those places and protest there, where the action is. Because what difference is it going to make here? No one here is going to be able to change the issue. I don't know. We had protests here during the George Floyd stuff. And that's a little bit more broad because people made that more of a racism issue than specifically about him as a person. But there wasn't really much going on in this part of Ohio. In my town, there wasn't. And I don't know, people will always say, "Oh yeah, I've been unfairly targeted and this and that." I don't think, at the time, we didn't have what appeared to be a huge racist issue in this city. Fast forward a few years later, after these things have been kind of brewing, and maybe we do. Maybe we have issues here. There's people in my town I know for sure that are solidly racist, and it's unfortunate. It is really unfortunate. But at the time, you didn't hear much about that. Everything was kind of, we coexisted best we could. If there was a person who was kind of a jerk, well, then they got treated like a jerk, and that was it. I miss I miss how we were in the 90s and the 2000s, in the early 2000s, before the 2020s and up. Because, and the 2010s and up even, because yes, you had racist people. But if they made a big deal about it, they were pushed out. They were shut down. It wasn't like they got beaten up, but they were quieted down. They were pushed aside, and people coexisted. Racism wasn't a big public thing in the 90s and the early 2000s, before the 2010s. And then once the 2010s really started to come along, there were a lot of political people that drew attention to it, that made it a big deal, and then it became more of a big deal. And now ever since then it's become more of a thing than it was. And I'm not a denier. I'm not going to say that no one has been racist since the 60s or the 50s or whatever, but it was more private. It was less openly hateful. And it was less reciprocated. Because now that everything that we talk about, oh yeah, there's this and this deals with racism, and this is this, and it makes all sides of the issue now become part of the issue, if that makes sense. We have racism on multiple fronts, from multiple ethnicities, from multiple skin colors, and it kind of sucks. Like, and some people will say, well, it's okay to be racist towards this people because these people are oppressors and these people are whatever. And it's like, no, it's not. It isn't. Because that's perpetuating the thought. If you feel that that's okay, that's giving the other people a license to be the way that they are. I don't know how more clearly to explain that. And people don't seem to get it. They're stuck in their ways now. But that's what's going on in Ohio, and I'm bummed out about it. I'm bummed out about it because there are other legitimate issues that we need to take care of here in the state. In my town, in my city, I guess Canton is a city. It's not just a town, it's a city. The local school district is shrinking. It's going to consolidate its school systems and like sell off school buildings and different things and merge everybody into bigger classrooms because they don't have the funding. And it's another reason why my daughter is homeschooled. Because she's not going to learn anything in a class of like 40, 50 kids. Right? Kids need individual attention. I don't mean to say every single kid needs a tutor of their own, but you need to be able to communicate effectively on their level. And if you have a class of 40, 50 kids, like when I went to school, we had like 20 to 30 kids per class. And you didn't get individual attention. Not that I was asking for it because I didn't like school and I didn't want to have individual attention because I just wanted to be done with school. But I think there are plenty of kids that need individual attention. And in a smaller classroom, like maybe 10, 15, you can do that to a point without derailing the whole thing and without, the whole class suffering. But with 40 to 50 kids, you can't do that so much because you can't keep track of everybody. And Our local school system did it to themselves. They bought into a lot of the restrictions from 2020 to 2023 when the various 19 things were going on. They limited classroom time. They did a lot of remote things. They messed up. And I get it. And I'm not here to litigate the whole C-19 issue with people. I know people are going to disagree with me on various things about that. But it was in the long term harmful to the kids. Like, my daughter, being in homeschool, is smarter, and I don't mean that as a brag. I don't mean that as like, oh, my daughter's so smart. She naturally grasps concepts and is able to work through problems better than the kids at her grade level in this city. And the reason I know that is because when we were going to send her off to school, and I don't want to see that flippantly, like, oh, we're going to send her off to school, see you later. When she was going to go to school as opposed to homeschool, we signed up for the various newsletters, and they have like their own newspaper that comes from the Canton City School District, and it tells you all about what's going on in the district and what the kids are learning and various things. And the local school system is super far behind compared to my daughter. And it's not that I've gone out of my way to teach her advanced things. I looked up the state of Ohio curriculum for what a student should know at each grade level. And it's not a hard and fast, like they have to learn this or they're behind. It's a recommendation. It's like most students in this area should be well-rounded in addition, subtracting, multiplication, science, this, whatever. And I've been using that as a guidepost to make sure my daughter keeps up with her education. And the local kids are way behind that. They're so far behind. Like, kids at her grade level can't spell. They'll show pictures of, oh, look at what the kids in this classroom did for their art thing. They wrote a letter, a poem, or whatever to their parents, and here it is, and here's a few examples. And the spelling is bad, the grammar is bad, it's just so far behind. And I don't get why. It's a public school system. Yeah, it's not going to be, I don't know. Being from public school myself, I guess I can understand how things can fall behind because of budget and because of just taking care of so many students and whatnot. But it's just astounding. And now they're having to shrink their buildings, like they're having to sell off some of their buildings and consolidate their classes into larger sizes, and I think it's detrimental. I don't think it's going to work. And you can't rely on either the state or the federal government to help in that area, because the Department of Education has been basically neutered. It's run by Linda McMahon. The Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, is run by Linda McMahon. If you don't know who that is, Linda McMahon's... And you know what? I don't even know if they're still married anymore, but I know her husband or her ex-husband. It could be they're divorced now. But her former husband was Vince McMahon of the World Wrestling Entertainment. the pro wrestling organization. This is the same guy who got busted, who got accused of doing some pretty awful things with an assistant who was not his wife. You know, she's connected to a wrestling empire, a pro wrestling empire. And she's the leader of the Department of Education. I don't know. I'm not taking a stance for or against the current administration. I know people are going to take that as, well, if you don't take a stance, then obviously you've made your choice and you're on the side of the oppressor. And no, once again, I'm not. Just because I haven't taken a stance on it doesn't mean that I'm for or against different things. I mean, people are quick to judge on that kind of thing. I take positions on individual issues because I think that's what's important. And none of the issues that I've been interested in for the last couple of decades have been addressed, so I guess it doesn't matter. Healthcare. Healthcare is crap now. It was crap under Obama. I don't know, maybe it was crap under Bush. That was before when I had to pay attention to it as what it was as an adult. But through the Obama, the Biden, and the Trump terms, when I've been a grown adult dealing with healthcare has been trash. Okay. The Affordable Care Act was not. It's not affordable. Not for me. Maybe it is for you. And if it is for you, fantastic. I'm glad for you. But it's never been affordable for me. And I've never been able to get good health care. And it sucks. Because I have this cold that won't go away. And I got bad teeth and different things, right? And they're talking about Trump is talking about a new cheaper health care and whatnot. And you know what? I'll believe it when I see it. Because it's not necessarily the person in the big chair that makes that work. It's all the various Congress people voting on the bits and pieces to make it work. The Affordable Care Act could have been okay if the government had the option, if they were able to fund it and to keep the prices down. They couldn't do that. And they tried to by injecting the individual mandate into it, which was to make sure that if you didn't have insurance, you had to pay a fine for it, which people couldn't afford either. Like, I couldn't afford the fine, so how was I supposed to afford insurance? Like, it didn't matter. And then that got shot down. The individual mandate got removed. So then how were they going to pay for it? We have a huge deficit as a country, which again does not make any sense. Like, how does a country... How do you go in debt? Why can't you just base what you have on what you have? And the answer is they stopped using the gold standard for the dollar, and they moved to a credit-based system. And then they started drawing credit from various other countries, and various this and various that. And it was just an unlimited pot of let's print more money, and let's devalue our money, and let's make the whole situation worse. If you don't have a concrete physical thing to base your currency off of, then your currency doesn't really make a difference, does it? We all believe that the dollar has a value of what it does based on what it used to have. it doesn't really have a value now, to be perfectly honest, because it's not based off of gold anymore. It's based off of credit. It used to be based off of gold, which is what it started from. And so we still have that idea, and that's where where our starting point is. But now the dollar might as well be as it might as well be crypto. Crypto is based off of bits of data floating free on the internet. And if you mine the data, you have currency. Frankly, it's bullshit. Like, somebody came up with the concept and they said, oh yeah, this is obviously valuable. And they convinced somebody else that it was valuable. And then they convinced somebody else that it was valuable. And enough people bought into it that crypto became a thing. And that's what gave it its value. Crypto isn't real money. Bitcoin isn't real money. It's worth nothing. It is worth nothing. Trust me, it's worth nothing. But because somebody believed it was worth something, they attached a value to it. And they convinced somebody else that it was worth that amount. And that person believed it. And then the next person believed it. And the reason it fluctuates so much is because it's not based off of anything tangible. It's based off of an idea. And that's why crypto crashes so often. The only people to get rich off of crypto are the people who get into it quick at the beginning, when they are still able to convince everybody else that it's worth something. They gather up as much as they can, and then they sell it for massive amounts, and then they get out of the game. Those are the people who got rich with crypto. They get out of the game before the masses realize this is worth nothing. It's based off of nothing. Crypto is worthless. It's absolutely worthless. But people believe it's worth something, and that makes it worth something. And that's the power of belief. And that's a whole other episode, the power of belief. Like, if you can convince enough people that something is true, then it will become true, even if it isn't. It's a paradox. It makes no sense. But if enough people believe it, it becomes true. Which is why I hope. Oh, I hope. I'm hoping and hoping and hoping. There's this fringe theory, and I know people that believe this, that are completely bought in, and they're great people, but I cannot agree with them. They believe that the earth is flat, and I'm like, flat earth is not true. And no matter what you say to them, they're going to completely be like, no, this is this and this and this, and you're just not this. And I just hope that the majority doesn't come around to the idea that flat earth is a thing, because then that's going to be the thing that they teach in the schools, and that's going to be the accepted whatever, that flat earth is once again a thing. Because if enough people believe it, it becomes fact. And that's where we are in the world right now. If enough people believe something, it becomes fact. That's crypto. That's religion on some level. If enough people believe it, it's the same concept. If enough people believe it, it becomes true. And religion has had a long, long, long time to cement its place as quote unquote the truth. So this has been a really cynical episode. I'll say that. It has been awfully cynical. And that's, I guess, what happens when I just free range my thoughts and they go randomly off in whatever direction. In other news, I've been creating more music. I have been creating more music, and there is the chance that I may put out a release, a Spider in the Hall release, sometime this year. I know I've been saying that the last few years, and the creativity has just not been there. But it might be there this time. I feel like I have more things to say than I used to. And that's been kind of the issue that I've had. It's that as an artist, you have to speak on different things or just make something shallow and meaningless. And I don't want to make anything shallow and meaningless. I want to make things that speak of my opinions and that speak of the way the world is. Kind of like how this show goes, you know? And I feel like maybe I'm finally in a place where I can do that. I don't know. We'll see. I've made a couple of songs. We'll see how it goes from there. What else is new? What else can we finish with? Because we've only got a few minutes left before we're done. What else? I was going to mention this earlier on, and I'm not going to get too big into it now because it's so late, but the Warner Brothers Discovery sale seems to be even more heavily favored towards Netflix. Paramount has made its hostile takeover bid, and it's floundering. It is floundering. And Netflix has changed its offer from a mix of stock and cash to being 100% cash, which money talks. Money talks. I have no doubt that Warner Brothers Discovery will be purchased by Netflix. I don't think it's going to be any regulatory issue. But that's all we're going to say about it because we didn't get into it early enough, and I don't want to dig into it, rehash it this late into the show. We're going to maybe examine this a little bit more closely in the next episode. Perhaps. Unless something better comes along. But that's about it. That's all we've got. I think I've rambled on about various things enough for the evening. I'm going to probably eat some food and probably go to bed. It's late. And I've talked enough. So anyway, thank you for listening. Once again, you can always listen to these episodes across the internet. You can listen to them on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, iHeartRadio, more places than that I can list here. It's a huge list of various places that you can listen to this. Wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, which is this one, you can listen to this show. You can also listen to it on YouTube now regularly, because I have the RSS code set up. Each episode is going to go to YouTube automatically, no delays. So if that's your preferred platform, you can listen to Uncanny Media, the show, on YouTube. But again, wherever you listen to this one, your favorite podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my various other social things. If you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to Spider Does Things. That's my YouTube channel. If you're on Twitch, the podcast is not on Twitch, but all of my gaming videos are on Twitch as well as YouTube. But on Twitch, DMGRGN I would appreciate a follow or a subscribe there. And you can look me up on Facebook. Look for Uncanny Media, and you will automatically, most likely, find posts by me. Do a follow or send me a friend request. We'll see. That's all I've got. Thank you for listening. We're going to get out of here. Have a good night.